Well, guys, we are finally here. The end of the Sengoku Jidai series by Kings and Generals. This has been a great series. Like I said, I didn't know anything about this conflict or any of the major players before I walked into this, and I've been so invested. I feel like I'm watching like a television show or something, and I'm just like wondering, how is it gonna end? Ieyasu has now taken basically control of Japan. He stole from Hideyoshi's clan, and now it's like, well, but like Hideyoshi's like heir, his son is still there, and I'm just wondering, how is it gonna end? Who's gonna be the master of Japan? Who's gonna I'm just like wondering how is this gonna go, and I think that's really what I want to see, just the conclusion and how this all ends. So before I do get into it though, I want to say if you want to watch the original video by Kings and Generals, the link is down in the description down below. And if you like my content and you want to help me out in any way, shape, or form, feel free to please like, comment, subscribe, and maybe consider being like a Patreon member. It would really help me out a lot. Now with that said, and now without any further ado, let's get to it, shall we? Let us watch the final of Sengoku Jidai by Kings and Generals.
Following the decisive victory at Sekigahara and the mop-up of any minor resistance elsewhere in Japan, Ieyasu emerged as the undisputed ruler of the island nation. In 1603, he formally received the title of
Look at all that he's accomplished. This man went from like one of, well, at least on the map, like not the largest of areas to now the master of Japan. Him and Hideyoshi both are just amazing. Yeah, both of these guys are beyond impressive in what they achieved, going from, well, in Hideyoshi's case, like, kind of basically, like, what did Kings in General say? Called him a peasant, in a sense? I think that's the word he used, I forgot. The point is, of humble origins to basically being the master of Japan, and Ieyasu kind of doing the same. It is amazing, though. I feel like, I don't know, I'm almost wondering if Ieyasu's about to have a dramatic fall now that he's reached his zenith. I don't know why I'm getting that vibe that he's about to have a rude awakening and that things are about to go awful for him. I hope not. I kind of like rooting for the guy. He's like one of the two people I was following, but you never know with life. Fortune changes dramatically.
Shogun, a position he would retain for only 2 years, as in 1605 he abdicated in favor of his son Hidetada and assumed the title of Ogosho, the retired shogun. Ieyasu lost no time solidifying his rule and immediately began to work to turn Edo into the seat of the new Tokugawa administration. The various daimyo of the land were moved around the provinces of Japan like pawns to suit Ieyasu's policy. It mattered little whether a daimyo had sided with Ieyasu or had opposed him. In fact, some of his most trusted generals found themselves far away, occupying key castles across the land that controlled vital roads, thus preventing any coalitions from forming against the shogunate. Of course, their loyalty and ties to the Tokugawa family did matter when it came to ranks within the Bakufu's administration.
Bakufu? Okay, 2 words. Short, military, government, well, they had worded. Okay. Interesting.
With Fudai daimyo occupying the higher ranks. While Edo was his seat of power, Ieyasu hadn't forgotten about Kyoto and made sure to firmly establish his control of the imperial city by refurbishing Fushimi Castle and constructing Nijo Castle, which would also serve as his residence there. These castles were also vital in keeping what remained of the Toyotomi clan in check. Ieyasu had defeated the Western coalition at Sekigahara and reduced Hideyori's income to slightly below 700,000 koku annually, but the Toyotomi had amassed great wealth since the days of Hideyoshi. In addition, owing to Hideyoshi's diplomatic skills, many of the defeated daimyo still maintained friendly relations with the Toyotomi and could perhaps rally behind Hideyori to overthrow the Tokugawa government. During the first years of his rule, Ieyasu tried a more diplomatic approach. Hideyori himself was too young to lead a military campaign, while there were also rumors of him being effeminate. So Ieyasu attempted to bridge the gap between the two families by marrying the eldest daughter of Hidetada, Senhime, to Hideyori in 1603. However, everything changed in 1611, when Yodo Dono, Hideyori's overprotective mother, allowed him out of the safety of the formidable Osaka castle, and the two men met and talked face to face for the first and last time. Instead of meeting with the weakling the rumors suggested Hideyori was, Ieyasu found himself opposite a brilliant young man, a worthy successor to Hideyoshi, which caused him great alarm. Sure, Hideyori wasn't as competent as Hideyoshi, but neither was Hidetada the equal of Ieyasu. The Ogosho, who was drawing ever closer to the end of his life, could simply not take any chances to let his life's work be undone.
That's the problem. He didn't kill Hideyori because he was a child, but yeah, if that kid grows up, things change. He becomes a rallying point against your administration, and if he proves to be, like, smart, like, he's not stupid, that's also another big problem. So, he's gotta go? Like, I guess that's what we're gonna do, huh?
The Toyotomi had to be eradicated, and from then on, the search began for a pretext to ignite the hostilities. That came in 1614, in the form of a temple bell. That bell was part of Hideyori's project to restore a Buddhist temple, and the Toyotomi made the unfortunate mistake of writing 2 inscriptions on the bell. It was a stretch, but the Tokugawa managed to find them offensive, even their wishing for the well-
Why is the character piece placed between 2 characters of my name? House string. Really grasping for straws, huh? He's like, I need to find something to make me kill this man. Oh, nice. And your undoing was riding on bells. Rookie mistake. No, I'm joking. But yeah, at this point, like, he was looking for a reason. Give me a reason. My God, give me a reason.
Being of the state, claiming the characters were written in such a way that mocked Ieyasu. An attempt was made to solve the crisis diplomatically,
Oh my God.
but the situation only worsened. Sensing the upcoming war, Hideyori began expanding his castle's defenses and amassing a vast host of ronin in Osaka. These masterless samurai had come to his state thanks to Ieyasu, who had defeated their previous lords, and were more than happy for a chance to get back at the retired shogun.
Oh, wow.
Amongst these men was Sanada Yukimura, an accomplished and famed warrior who had fought for the Toyotomi in the past at Sekigahara. Together with Goto Motetsugu, they proposed to take the fight to Ieyasu and capture some key positions where the Nakasendo and Tokaido roads.
Okay, I was being like, what's that noise? What the... That's weird. I've never heard those noises in a Kings and Generals video. I got caught off guard there for a second.
Meet to prevent the Eastern Army from reaching Kyoto. It was roughly the same strategy Ishida Mitsunari had followed 14 years earlier. By blocking the road to Kyoto, they could then secure the city and use the emperor to declare Ieyasu an enemy of the throne, a move that could swing many daimyo and samurai to their side. Hideyori instead preferred to stay in Osaka and let Ieyasu come to him. It wasn't a choice born of cowardice. Osaka Castle, which had been built over the older Ishiyama Hongenji, was a formidable fortress. It had strong walls, deep and wide moats and canals, and natural defenses in the form of rivers to the north. Only the southern side of the complex could realistically be chosen for an attack, and its defenses were further reinforced by digging a moat and constructing a 2-story tall earthwork barbican behind it, called the Sanada Maru, after Yukimura. In mid-November, the shogunate's forces began their offensive on the outskirts and the outlying forts that surrounded Osaka, with the first action taking place at the port city of Sakai. Within a month, the bulk of the Eastern Army, including Ieyasu's and Hidetada's own regiments, had surrounded the main complex, with Ieyasu's allies moving to secure the riverside forts, firstly capturing Kizigawa-guchi on the 19th of December. On the 26th, Shigeno fell to the forces of Uesugi Kagekatsu, and on the same day, just across the river to the north, Satake Yoshinobu was able to capture the 3 forts at Iwafuku. Despite launching a counterattack led by Kimura Shigenari and Goto Mototsugu, the Toyotomi forces were unable to reclaim control of the forts. 3 days later, the shogunate's forces, under the command of Ishikawa Tadafusa and Hachisuka Yoshishige, captured Bakuruguchi, while Kuki Moritaka and Ikeda Tadetsugu captured the forts of Noda and Fukushima, respectively. With all of Osaka's outlying forts having been brought under the Eastern Army's control, Ieyasu prepares to assault the main castle.
He has artillery. Interesting. I'll say though, like, we haven't really seen artillery used since in his entire series until last episode, and now this one, where artillery is finally starting to appear again. So that's pretty cool. It's nice to see it, and I'm thinking if utilized correctly, it can easily be a great asset to things, especially to sieges. Again, the fortifications that he mentioned seem incredibly formidable, so I don't blame him for taking the defensive approach. I'll say, when it came to Hideyoshi, his siegecraft was S tier. Like, honestly, the best siegecraft I've ever seen. Iyasu's siegecraft isn't as good by comparison, I'll admit, but, I'm struggling to remember any great feats of siegecraft that amazed me from him. I can't think of any at the moment, but still, I'm thinking maybe the artillery can be a big game changer if utilized correctly. I guess we'll see.
At its weakest point, the Sanada Maru. On the 3rd of January of the new year, the shogunate's forces began their attack on the sector that was defended by Sanada Yukimura and his troop, with Maeda Toshitsune's forces capturing the hill of Sasayama, where Yukimura had originally placed his forward headquarters. With that done, and joined by the troops of Matsudaira Tadanao and Ina Taka, he proceeded to cross the dry moat and attack Sanada Maru's walls directly. However, the attack soon turned into a real bloodbath, as the accurate arquebus fire of the defenders cut down many of the attackers. With casualties mounting, Tadanao and now Taka pivoted their assault and headed towards the gate of Hachomeguchi. Their men managed to climb the ramparts and temporarily breached Osaka's defenses, before Kimura Shigenari and his troops drove them off. The following day, the Tokugawa forces, under Todo Takarora, tried their luck on the westernmost gate of Osaka's south side, the Tanamachi-guchi. Still, once again, they were unable to dislodge the staunch defenders. With the assaults on Sanada Maru and the castle's gates yielding poor results, Ieyasu changed his strategy and decided to hammer Osaka's garrison with his artillery. Amongst the 300 pieces he had positioned around the fortress was his hidden ace up his sleeve, 10 European-bought heavy cannons.
Ooh.
Starting on the 8th and for 3 consecutive...
Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna be like, the artillery, when I noticed the artillery on the battlefield, I'm like, if utilized correctly, because again, artillery's OP, guys. It really is, and I know this is, I'm not sure I wouldn't say it's too early of an artillery to where it's like, very early artillery, it's kind of not that useful and wasn't that big of a game changer, but I feel like at this point in history, yeah, it is, something that, it is much more useful than earlier artillery pieces. So, that and the European thing, like, this should give him kind of a leg up. I'm not sure enough to win, but this, ideally, like, when it comes to sieges, if you can, like, blow your enemies down with frickin' artillery, I could see this turning out very, that could be the big game changer that Ieyasu needs, because, again, just attacking seems like it's gonna be a bloody affair, as we just saw right there,
days, the Tokugawa artillery fired salvos at 10 o'clock at night and dawn's first light, while miners dug under Osaka's walls. Yet even that approach proved to be of little effectiveness, as the castle's walls were thick and the damage sustained was minimal. To add salt to the wound, the defenders sallied out one night and attacked Hachisuka Yoshishige's camp. With even the European guns being no match for the castle's defenses, Ieyasu rethought his approach, and, taking advantage of their superior range, he began shelling the buildings in the innermost courtyards, betting on the psychological effect of the bombardment. On the 15th, he deliberately targeted Yododono's private apartments, knowing that she was very influential amongst the Toyotomi faction, and her demoralization could bring an end to the campaign. 2 days later, on the anniversary of Hideyoshi's death, Ieyasu's artillery fired a shot at the temple, surmising that Hideyori would visit the place to pay respects to his late father. The shot missed, and instead landed once again at Yododono's apartments, killing 2 of her maids.
Dang.
Following that, and as Ieyasu had correctly assumed, the panicked woman brought the Toyotomi side to the negotiations table.
Oh, dang. Yo, no way, I didn't think... Alright. I mean, I was kind of right. The artillery did play a big part, though not in the way I expected. I thought it in a more destructive sense. But I guess he used it in a more psychological sense to kind of spook them enough to where... Wow, okay. That's actually incredibly... Again, the man is so cunning. He's like, alright, let me get to the mom now, because his assessment was accurate, considering how influential she was, so... Again, this man's a genius.
The peace negotiations didn't last long.
Oh, never mind.
Already by the 21st, a deal had been reached, with Ieyasu promising to respect the lives of the Ronin that had joined the Toyotomi cause, and to allow Hideyori and his mother to reside wherever they wished without reducing their income. On their part, Hideyori and Yododono promised never to rebel against the shogunate again. It was a deal that was just too good to be true, and it...
Yeah, it does sound really good. And that's the thing, this whole thing began because Ieyasu feared his influence. He's a rallying point that rebels can rally behind against Ieyasu's administration and clan. He wanted him dead. That's what he wanted at the beginning. To just let him walk away and live is to forever have a threat. I think he's lying and he's about to kill these people. And again, Hideyori has kind of shown that he's not... I mean, granted, he's not his father, but he's not stupid. At least completely, like, this whole defensive approach wasn't the worst thing. Worst way to go about it, I suppose. It's just, you know, his mom losing nerve definitely didn't help, so I don't know. I don't feel like... I could be wrong, but I'm having a really dark feeling right now that Ieyasu's not about to let them just ride off into the sunset, you feel me?
Wasn't long before Ieyasu showed his true intentions, for as he took the road back to Kyoto, his soldiers dropped their weapons, and, now armed with pickaxes and shovels, began demolishing Osaka's outer defenses and filling in the moats. Alarmed by the destruction of their walls, the Toyotomi complained that this was not part of the peace deal. But when word reached Ieyasu, he dismissed them, saying that since peace prevailed, they no longer had any need for walls.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, this devious man.
It was now obvious the peace agreement was a trap, and the Toyotomi had fallen right in. Without a single shot fired, Ieyasu had neutralized much of Osaka's defenses before his soldiers were forced to stop. Realizing there could be no compromise with the Tokugawa, Hideyori regathered his forces, and both sides prepared for the second round.
Oh no.
Seeing how his static defense strategy had produced poor results during the winter campaign, and with Osaka's fortifications significantly weakened, this time Hideyori agreed to take on the offensive. On the 23rd of May, Ono Harufusa and Goto Motetsugu crossed the Kurigari Pass at the Akoma Mountains and attacked Koriyama Castle, but were unable to capture it. The next day, Harufusa marched out of Osaka, this time heading south to Sakai, before proceeding towards Kishiwada Castle. On the way, he was intercepted by Asano Naga Akira, who had set out from Wakayama at the head of a 5,000-strong regiment. The two armies clashed at Kashi on the 26th, with Naga Akira's soldiers emerging victorious, forcing Harufusa to return to Osaka. A few days later, on the 2nd of June, Ieyasu and Hidetada left Kyoto with 120,000 men, this time taking a more direct route towards Osaka, while another regiment, roughly 40,000 strong, under Date Masamune, took the long route over the road that led to Nara. On the following day, Masamune's group would clash with Goto Mototsugu's 2,800-strong vanguard near Daimyoji. Mototsugu was moving his forces to the hill of Kometsuyama, hoping to capture it before the shogunate's forces could pass. At dawn, the two sides clashed at the top of the hill, with Mototsugu's forces initially pushing back the soldiers of Hondo Tadamasa and Matsudaira Tadaaki. However, the main body of the Osaka army, led by Sanada Yukimura, lagged behind the Ishikawa River. At the same time, Masamune's own men were able to join the fray, and their numerical advantage soon turned the tide. The Tokugawa forces pushed the vanguard back, and then crossed the river, where they engaged Yukimura's army at Daimyoji. Following a fierce fight, Yukimura ordered a retreat, leaving behind many dead, amongst them Mototsugu and Susukida Kanesuke. At the same time, and a few miles to the north, the Osaka forces also engaged the shogunate's forces at 2 points near the villages of Yao and Wakae. At Yao, Chosokabe Morichika, with his 5,300-strong corps, faced off against Todo Takarora's similarly sized force, while in Wakae, Kimura Shigenari engaged the Red Devils of Inautaka. Both battles resulted in defeat for the Osaka forces, and Ieyasu
Yeah, these are going really well for Ieyasu, I must admit, though. Like, definitely, he just seems to have the overwhelming numerical superiority, and he's winning on the battlefield. So, Hideyori is such in a bad position, and he's kind of in a fight for his life, because again, Ieyasu ain't gonna let him live, I feel. If he gets his hands on him, he doesn't want him to live, so... yeah.
continued his advance towards Osaka, where the climactic battle between the two sides would take place.
Oh boy. Oh boy, this feels like the end game, guys. This is gonna be the battle to finally decide who gets Japan. Oh my gosh, this feels like, yeah, this is the main event.
Ieyasu's plan was the same as the last time. He wanted to take up positions at the hills of Chausuyama and Okayama, but as he approached Osaka, he saw that Chausuyama had already been occupied by Yukimura, who had set up his headquarters there. At Yukimura's left stood Mori Katsunaga, commanding a large group of Ronin. The center of Ieyasu's army was made up of forces belonging to Sanada Nobuyuki, who was Yukimura's older brother, Honda Tadatomo, Asano Nagashige, and Akita Sanesue. Behind them followed Ogasawara Hidemasa, Hoshina Masamitsu, Sakakibara Yasukatsu, Suwa Tadazumi, and Matsudaira Tadanao. To their left, holding the road, were the forces of Date Masamune and Asano Naga Akira. On the right came the forces belonging to Maeda Toshitsune, Katagiri Katsumoto, Tokugawa Hidetata, Todo Takarora, Hosokawa Tadaoki, and Inautaka. Not all of the large Tokugawa army had managed to take up their respective positions when Mori Katsunaga, unable to control his men, many of whom were rowdy Ronin, gave in to their demands and ordered an attack.
Oh no.
Their fierce assault took the Tokugawa soldiers by surprise, and they managed to overwhelm the first lines. The attack went contrary to Yukimura's plan, who wanted to draw Ieyasu's men to his position. Still, seeing the success, and not wanting to miss the opportunity, he too attacked, while at the same time sending a messenger to Hideyori, urging him to sally out of the castle with his own troops. The combined attack put the shogunate's troops in a tough position, and to make matters worse, an extreme flanking maneuver attempted by Naga Akira was mistaken as a betrayal, causing further chaos.
Oh no.
So dire was the situation that Ieyasu himself rode there to inspire his troops and turn the situation around. There, the legend says that Yukimura spotted him and managed to wound him, while another version claims that he was able to kill the Ogosho, and a body double took his place. In reality, however, it was Yukimura who would perish in the heat of the battle.
Oh my gosh.
Exhausted from the fierce fight, he sat on a stool to rest, but was spotted by a samurai named Nishio Munetsugu, who beheaded him.
Oh!
Deprived of their leader,
Holy
and facing
crap.
pincer attacks from Inautaka and Todo Takatora on their left, and Date Masamune on their right, Yukimura's men began retreating towards the castle.
Dang, I thought Ieyasu was about to die right there. I was about to, like, I honestly held my breath there for a second. Oh my gosh. Okay, that definitely had a good starting momentum, but now it seems like the momentum has been reversed.
On the other side, at Okayama, Maeda Toshitsune's forces were still fighting against those of Ono Harunaga. The fight was not going well for the Tokugawa until now Taka and Takatora, having successfully pushed back Yukimura's men, turned back and assisted their comrades there, pursuing Harunaga's men to the castle. At roughly the same time, Ikeda Tadatsugu sailed up the Tenma River and attacked Osaka from that side, while Ishikawa Tadafusa, Kyogoku Tadetaka, and Kyogoku Takatono assaulted the castle from the Shigano area in the northeast. Hideyori finally made his appearance, but it was already too late. His men needed him to inspire them hours ago. Now it was 4 in the afternoon. Many of his best generals had died, and Ieyasu's men had reached the Sakura Gate. Osaka was engulfed in chaos as melee fights broke out in the streets, buildings were set on fire, and Ieyasu's artillery pounded the castle from afar. Many fled, while others took their own lives. Only a few stayed to protect Hideyori and Yododono, who sought refuge in a fireproof storage. They spent the night there, but by the morning, having realized Ieyasu would not parley this time, both mother and son took their own lives.
Ooh. Dang. He wiped him out. He wiped out like Hideyoshi's basically like his son. Oh my gosh, dude.
Thus, the Toyotomi line was extinguished, and Ieyasu could rest, knowing that no other clan could challenge the Tokugawa's authority. A year later, on the 1st of June, Ieyasu passed into eternity, possibly due to stomach cancer.
Dude, rip Ieyasu, bro. That guy was amazing. He was so good at what he did. Yeah, just so. Again, his journey was amazing. How he just played. He played the game incredibly well for such a long time, and basically reached the zenith of power. GG, man. That guy was amazing.
He had risen from a captive and a vassal of the Imagawa to become ruler of all Japan. He was leaving behind a strong legacy, and his descendants would rule the land of the rising sun for 2.5 centuries.
Wow. He won. Holy crap. It's kind of amazing. Hideyoshi was kind of like the, how do you say, like, both of these guys came from, like, not the best positions, right? And then just rose. But I'll say, while Hideyoshi was... I'm trying to put this more, like... They're both, like, cut of the same cloth, I think is what I'm trying to say. Like, two sides of the same coin. Very similar in their stories, though their approaches were different, you know? And at the end... they both achieved to be the masters of Japan, though Hideyoshi's success immediately perished after he died, and then Ieyasu swooped in and just got rid of him. So it seems like Ieyasu was the more successful of creating a longer lasting, you know, like, I guess, in terms of, like, familial legacy. Like, Hideyoshi, no doubt, is gonna always be remembered. They both are, and, you know, in terms of their own personal legacies. I'm just saying, in terms of, like, the family continuing and the clan, I feel like Ieyasu was the more successful one in terms of just creating something that lasts, I mean, like, what, 2 centuries? Holy crap. Wow. Just amazing. Well, we have a few seconds. Let me save my praise for him to let him finish.
For some historians, the siege of Osaka is considered the end of the Sengoku era. Indeed, Japan had entered a new chapter in its history, the Edo period, when the Tokugawa clan ruled over the land unobstructed.
Dang.
It is a period characterized by relative peace that brought prosperity to the people, especially during the first half. It is also a period synonymous with Japan's isolation from the outside world, the Sakoku. However, all that would come crushing down during the end years of the Tokugawa rule, a period known as Bakumetsu, when American ships forced open Japan's borders and brought forth a decade of great upheaval, which led to the violent collapse of the shogunate in the Boshin War. We are already working on the next series on Japanese.
That was amazing. Once again, Kings and Generals outdoes himself, and I, who went in blind to this, didn't know anything about the Sengoku, period, have now walked out with well, obviously not as dumb, because I didn't know, I knew zero about this thing, and now I'm walking out at least with a lot more knowledge than I came in, and this was really fun. Again, Kings and Generals never disappoints, dude. He is always amazing in his videos and in his series, and again, he is, in my opinion, the best historical YouTuber. He's my favorite. Just another banger of a series, guys. And holy crap. Like I said, I took note of Hideyoshi and Ieyasu. I want to ask all of you, who, of the two, who's your favorite? Who do you think played the game better, Hideyoshi or Ieyasu? Like, I feel like you can really compare and contrast the two. Me at the moment, I don't know. Like, Hideyoshi was, they're both so amazing and in different ways, but ultimately had kind of like a similar path in life and achieved similar success in their lifetimes, kind of ending at the same place. Like, Hideyoshi ended as the master of Japan, Ieyasu ended as the master of Japan. I guess the only real difference is, or the major difference is what came after in terms of their clans and who was better at solidifying the power for their families. But I don't know. Which of the two is your favorite and why? Let me know. I'm having a hard time thinking. I was thoroughly impressed with Hideyoshi, but I also, something about the guy is just so cunning, and the way he's like, I feel like such a great opportunist is the word I would use for Ieyasu. Like, the guy knew how to make himself kind of blend in, form the right allies, not make himself stand out too much to where his allies would turn on him, and knew when to strike, especially at the end there. I don't know, I'd say he's definitely played a longer con in that sense, but I don't know. I feel like in some ways you can say the same about Hideyoshi, though I felt like Hideyoshi was more in the spotlight more in his life, and definitely, I hope I'm not saying it right. I'm gonna stop before I just ramble on. Just let me know, what do you think? I'd like to know. And with that said, I'm gonna end the video and the series here. This was a great one, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow when we start something new. Bye, everyone.